Tenerife. The first time I realised Suzanne liked to be treated like a proper lady was when we moved in together. I bought a new bed, but when it turned up there was no mattress. It turned out that you had to buy the mattress separately, which was stupid. A bed without a mattress isn't a bed, it's a climbing frame. Anyway, money was a bit tight, but my dad said that my Uncle Alf had a spare mattress that he'd bring round. Alf wasn't a real uncle, he was just my dad's mate. I didn't know why he was sold to me as an uncle. My dad dropped off the mattress, and I made the bed. Suzanne came in from work a few hours later, and the first thing she said was, "What the hell is that smell?" She traced it to the mattress, which stank of diesel, because Uncle Alf had kept it in the back of a van. In the end, I had to buy a brand new mattress. It took 2 days for the smell of diesel to shift. So, because of the mattress incident, I knew within minutes of walking into our hotel room in Tenerife that Suzanne wouldn't like it. The bed and pillowcases were stained, the aircon didn't work, cockroaches were running around on the sideboard, and we didn't have our own bathroom, which I wasn't happy with, to be honest. If there's one thing I don't like, it's feeling I'm being rushed when I'm on the toilet. Every time I was sat on the hotel loo, I would hear someone outside waiting for me to finish. It was pointless taking in a newspaper, because I knew I never felt I had time for a proper read. Maybe I should have picked somewhere better for our 3rd anniversary together. We had a balcony that overlooked another hotel. I sat there many a day listening to the young girls next door shouting to the lads in the hotel across the way. The only time I couldn't hear the girls talking was when Ronny was playing the organ downstairs. Ronny worked in the hotel bar and played all the classics like Sweet Caroline and I Just Called to Say I Love You. He had jet black hair that I'm sure was a wig. It's the back of the wig that always gives it away, and seeing as he usually sat at the organ, that was the bit you saw the most. I'm good at spotting a wig. When I first went round to Suzanne's mum and dad's, I nipped out to the off-licence to get myself a walnut whip, and spotted that the fellow who runs the place wore a wig. I got back and said how bad it was, but they said, "What are you talking about? He doesn't wear a wig." They didn't believe me until they'd been to the pub and had it confirmed by one of their mates. He's run the off-licence for years and they'd never noticed. Maybe I take more notice of hair because I haven't got much. I started going bald when I was about 23. I think it was caused by once having to work a 24-hour shift at a place where I used to pack cassettes. It was my job to shrink wrap them in cling film. We had a big rush on because the comedian Chubby Brown had released a rude version of the song Living Next Door to Alice with a band Smokey, and it had done unexpectedly well in the charts. I had to shrink wrap 10,000 copies so they could go out to the shops as soon as possible, and that meant working through the day and night. A couple of days later, I noticed a bit of baldness on my head. My mum says it's got nought to do with it. She says I went bald either because I once mistook her blonde hair dye for shampoo, or because of the rubbish hairdresser my dad used to take me to. It was in a little shed next to a train station. The barber had to pause every time a train went past to avoid taking your eye out with the scissors. His busiest time was the last week of the summer holidays, when all the kids got their hair cut before going back to school. If you called for an appointment, he'd book you in according to the train timetable. He'd say, "I can fit you in between 4:35 and 4:56 trains to Altrincham." My mum thinks I picked up some sort of head disease from the sink he used to wash my hair in, because he would use it to pop his dirty cups with fag ends in. I stopped going there and went to another place that wasn't much better. It would take ages to get a haircut because they were forever trying to flog you knocked off gear. You'd go in for a haircut and leave with a packet of 5 blank VHS tapes and a pirate copy of Now That's What I Call Music Volume 2. Even though I was quite young when my hair started falling out, I never thought of getting a wig. If I was to wear a wig, I wouldn't stick with one style. I'd change it every day. Have different colours and that. If you're going to wear a wig, make the most out of it. But don't think you're fooling people into thinking you have hair. If being bald really bothered me, I'd wear a hat all the time, rather than a wig. Anyway, Ronny the organ player definitely had a wig. He also had a pale, gaunt face and a white suit that was too big for him. He played his organ non-stop from about 5:30 until 11 p.m. The only time I saw him stop was when some drunk woman went and stood by him and started singing along to We'll Meet Again. When he finished the song, the woman wanted to sing another, but he was having none of it. He got up and went to the bar. He had one drink and then went back to his organ and played an instrumental track, Stranger on the Shore, by Acker Bilk. So the woman couldn't sing along. She looked well put out. Whenever you left the hotel, you got hassled by people flogging stuff like packs of perfume and handbags that were replicas of expensive makes. Fellas would give you scratch cards and tell you to scratch off the silver bit straight away, in case you won something. You'd scratch it off and they'd say, "Look, you've got 3 sons. You've won. Come with me to the office and pick up your prize." I'd say go and get it for me while I wait. It was a load of bollocks. They just wanted you to go to their boss's office to sell you timeshare. I told one of them I was under 18 because they weren't allowed to offer timeshare to minors, and the cheeky bastard said, "You're under 18? You must have had tough paper round then." I wanted to say, "No, it was shrink wrapping 10,000 cassettes for Chubby Brown that made me look like this, you cheeky git." On our anniversary night, we had our tea at one of the English bars and then went for a wander about. We heard the voices of the girls from the next room. I hadn't seen any of them due to the concrete wall between the balconies. It's weird what you can imagine can sometimes be so accurate. Their arms were as wide as their legs and they looked like they had no top teeth. All of them wore white with high heels to match. 2 of the lads from the hotel across the road were with them. They were queuing up to go on a ride where you get locked into a round metal frame and then fired about 150 feet into the air. I'd seen sturdier stuff made of Meccano. We watched that for a bit and then went back to the hotel. I went into the toilet that was unlocked. There were 5 women inside and a young lad asleep on the bath mat. I said I wanted to use the toilet. The woman said they'd go, but would have to leave the young lad asleep as he hadn't been well. They said something about how they'd been waiting 3 hours for their room to be ready. I didn't bother using the toilet as they wouldn't been able to relax with a kid asleep on the floor. I'm like a cat when it comes to using the toilet. I don't like being watched. It's pretty rare to see a cat pooing. They never do it there when there are people about. Dogs, yes. Cats, no. When we had kittens at home, if I ever wanted to watch one of them use the litter tray, they would always turn their back to me. That's what I'm like. Anyway, it was our anniversary night, and I thought I'd treat Suzanne to a bit of the other. It was weird having it away to the sound of Ronnie's organ. I kept trying to work out what each song was from the first few notes, like they used to do on Name That Tune with Lionel Blair. I was happy doing that when we were disturbed by a loud banging at the door. I thought it was the girls from next door messing about, so I ignored it and carried on with the business. But the banging continued, and then we heard a man's voice saying, "Is there anyone there?" I got out of bed and answered the door whilst hiding me tackle. Stood there with 3 firemen. One of them told me to get out now because there was a fire. Suzanne heard what was said and was up and dressed in seconds. She didn't cope with danger very well. It was chaos outside. Some people were crying, some people were shouting. Someone was walking around asking people to get together and sue the hotel, and bar staff were handing out free spirits to calm people's nerves. The 5 women I bumped into in the toilet were already outside and the kid was awake. Everybody was outside. This would have been the best time in the whole holiday for me to use the toilet. It turned out to be the fire in a wheelie bin that had been set light to one of the doors of the lower rooms. Luckily, our room was okay, which was a relief to me, as I spent my last few quid on a replica Gucci handbag for Susan's anniversary present.